My mother would give us 10 cents, a nickel for a bottle of chocolate milk, and we used to go to Mrs. Wagner's pie factory and get a pie for 3 cents because it was cracked. And we'd eat this before we went to catechism because we had an hour there and then it was a long way home. And on Sundays when we went to Mass, we had Father Solanus, who is now going to be, he used to say Mass at the 8 o'clock Mass, and he wore his brown robe and his sandals and no socks, even in the winter. And after that, we'd go down into the basement and have hot chocolate and donuts. And in the afternoon, they had like a vaudeville show. People would get up there and do different talents, and all the Maltese would congregate, and we'd have a good time.
Sounds very nice.
All my life until we were probably in our mid-20s, we were living in Corktown. And the central point for the Maltese was St. Paul's Maltese Church. I wasn't as active as Mary was in the church. But we were christened there, we were married there, and that was the center of our religion, the center of our heritage. And when it was tore down, little by little, the people went and lived in the suburbs, and it wasn't like you were losing your heritage, but it wasn't there, again, like where she was in the Maltese church, a lot of people intermarried, and this is what we have. And at any rate, later on, I went to Holy Trinity, and then I went on to St. Vincent High School.
Well, we had a good time, and they also had a youth club there, and we would, in the wintertime, we'd go to Ogden, we'd all meet together, and we'd walk downtown to go to the movies. One of the most fun thing was going to Boblo every year. All the Maltese would get together, and we'd go to Boblo, and everybody would take their food, and everybody would put it on one big table, everybody helped themselves. And we also had races, and running races, and the pie contest, who could eat the most pies. And we just had a ball. We had a great time, New Year's Eve, we would go to, what was the name? St. Andrew's Hall.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody would take their children, babies and whatever, and we spent New Year's Eve with our parents and all our friends, because everybody knew everybody,
right.
And we had a great time. Growing up in Corktown was it was just a fabulous. Our generation was the best generation growing up. We were Catholic. Our religion was an important part. Every Saturday we had to go to confession, and on Good Friday, every first Friday of the month we had to go to Mass. And my sister and I went to a public grade school. So after Mass, there again, my mother would give us a dime, go for a chocolate milk, go for a cake, and we would get permission to eat in the teacher's lounge. And we thought that was the greatest. But growing up was, to me, the most wonderful time that anybody could ever remember.
Yeah.
Getting back to the Corktown area where the Maltese were, in the summertime, they were always on the porch. And they would gather on one porch or another, and they'd kind of go around. And when you lived in that neighborhood, you didn't dare mess up, because all of them treated you like they're your mother.
You didn't dare do anything wrong.
No, you did something wrong, but you were going to get it in all directions. And it was unique because people, they still shared their friendship. Today I met a woman that we lived with in the same building for 7 years, and was good friends with her wife. And she lives on the far east side, and I live on the far west side. So it's not until events like this that you get together.
Depression.
Okay.
My dad, I guess I can say it now, his dad was in this country illegally, and couldn't find any work, and his cousins lived in New York, so we moved to New York. And what they would do is they lived together in an apartment, and everybody would pool their money to survive. And after being there, I can't remember, I think we probably were there less than a year. Then my dad came back. We came back to Michigan, and I think you have to go to Canada and stay there for a while, and then he was able to come into this country legally. But in those days, we lived with my grandmother, who had we used to call it the secret door in the bed. She had a big Victorian home. And in the bathroom, we had what they call Michigan basements, where they used to put the coal there, but there was a trap door. Well, when my dad was in this country legally, they used to send the immigration people around. And that's where my dad used to go and hide. And then we put the door down and then put the rug over it. Oh, and I forgot to mention that when we were in New York, in the apartment houses, there were a lot of Maltese. So anytime an immigration person would come, everybody would have a broom and hit the ceiling to let everybody know that immigration was in the front.
And our friends were, a lot of the Maltese still stayed in that neighborhood. And when we left the neighborhood, we all went to different areas in the suburbs. But we had a group of probably 20 couples that started out, and twice a year we would go someplace without the children. Most of us had a lot of children. We had 7, and it just kind of getting away from things.
Yeah.
And so it usually was like around Valentine's Day we'd go to a resort, or Sweetie's Day, and Sweetie's Day. And most of the couples that we had were all Maltese. Today, we only have 2 couples that are still alive that haven't lost their baby. Before I would be cut short, I've got to say that I commend you and Mark and everybody working on this project, because this is kind of revitalizing our Maltese heritage, and I think it's very important. A lot of times you get children that don't care about the Maltese and everything, and although our children don't know how to speak Maltese, they're very familiar with the Maltese. And they visited Malta, most of them did. A couple before I did.
Yeah.
But I think that this is a very good thing.